It is truly an amazing thing, astounding, really, to see how many people out there on the right who are commenting on this issue with Charlie Kirk from yesterday, who have absolutely no idea how ballistic weapons work and have no idea the type of training that the average, everyday U.S. Army soldier gets in their 8 weeks of boot camp. I have seen no less than 100 posts from so-called experts who have claimed beyond the shadow of any reasonable doubt that the person who took the shot at Charlie Kirk had to have been some highly trained sniper, because he shot him from 200 to 250 yards away. You have to make multiple hits on targets 200 to 250 yards away just to get out of Army boot camp. Forget Marine Corps boot camp. And not only do you have to make the hits, you have to do it with a time limit, because they're pop-up targets. And you don't know where they're going to pop up. You might get the 100 and the 250. You might get the 150 and the 200. And you have anywhere from 3 to 7 seconds to find that target, engage it, and hit it. You do not have to be some expert to have accomplished what the individual, whoever it is, accomplished yesterday. Anybody who graduated Army basic training would have had to have been able to do that repeatedly, over and over again. This is the crazy part about this. Personally, I think the shooter got lucky, in the sense from the shooter's perspective, not in the grand perspective, of course. Not wishing harm on anyone. He got lucky that the round deflected the way that it did, because I personally think he had the absolute wrong angle on it. But, the job got done. The real story here, though, we're going to have to save for over at the Patreon channel, because it's something not a lot of people are going to want to hear, because everybody's caught up in their emotions on this. If you'd like to join us over there, there's 4 levels. McKee Foot Soldiers, Need to Know Roundtable, Unit Commanders, Brigade Commanders. There's hundreds and hundreds of videos already posted over there, ready to go, going back all the way to 2018. Love to have you over there. If you go over there, if you pull the trigger, say, okay, you know what, Florida Maquis, I'm going to give you a chance. You've got 90 days to go over there and kick the tires, and if it's not for you, all 90 days of your pledges come right back at you. As long as you do it, first 90 days. What is today? September 11? So let's see, September, October, November. We're going to be looking at Christmas before you'd have to make that decision. So love to have you over there. Another total psyop that's going on besides that, the idea that it had to be some super skilled trained sniper. And I've heard this from all sorts of right-wing outlets. Everybody needs to get armed now. Everybody needs to gun up. Everybody needs to carry. We have the new open carry issue in Florida now, where they've struck down the law that bans open carry, so you can open carry pretty much everywhere. There's a few restrictions. Would it have mattered if Charlie Kirk was armed? No. It would not have mattered. It didn't even matter that he wore a bulletproof vest. Would it have mattered if Charlie Kirk and every member of the audience he was speaking to was armed? No. Do you think that would have entered into the calculus of the shooter? No. Why? Because guys who do this are cowards. For a very long time, ballistic weapons were referred to as cowards' weapons. If you wanted to fight, if you wanted to duel with somebody, you met them face to face, nose to nose. And that's why dueling was done with swords for so long, even after the invention of the pistol and the rifle and the musket and all that. The ability to sneak off at a distance and hide somewhere and pepper off around at somebody and then scamper off. That's why so many people have said, guns are in the hands of civilians, are the weapons of cowards. Now, I know there's a lot of people upset about that, me saying that, but it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered how many people in that group were armed. If he had decided that he just didn't want to take out Charlie Kirk, and he wanted to take out a bunch of people, and he'd had a different weapon, from what I hear, it was a bolt action 30-06, designed to, shoot one good round and then get going. If he had decided to pick a different weapon where he had multiple rounds, he could have taken out anybody he wanted in that crowd before they got up on that roof. Over and over again. From a distance, and still probably got away. Anybody who served in Vietnam could have made that shot. Anyone who served in Vietnam could have made that shot using iron sights with an old M16A1. Because they had to. You had to do that to get out of boot camp. It was one great way to, if you didn't want to go to the war, fail BRM, fail basic rifle marksmanship. And believe me, I know people don't think that's a big deal, but when you use one of these weapons, iron sights versus a red dot is night and day different. It is night and day different. It takes a lot of training, and you have to hit multiple pop-ups at 200, 250. You don't technically have to hit the 300s to go ahead and pass through, but guys still take shots at them. You got to hit, I think, a minimum of 23 or 40. And in that 23, there's going to be some 200s and some 250s. There's folks out there I know that, and this is another psyop that people believe. Well, Florida Maquis, I understand what you're saying, but we still have to remain armed so that we can rise up against a tyrannical government just in case. This is horse shit. This is horse shit that was taught because it sounds good in 6th and 7th and 8th grade history classes. The people who rose up, took up arms against the British, when they started it, the shot heard around the world at Concord, at that point in time, they were dealing with British security forces. They weren't dealing with British regular army forces. The British had just sent a skeleton contingent to the New World to maintain security and to deal with the Native American scourge. When the colonists decided to organize and take on these security forces, and Britain got word of this, and they sent actual British troops to the New World, the colonists got their ass kicked. They got driven all the way back into the wilderness, which is ironically where this very concept of this type of warfare got its beginning. The only way they could fight the British, the only way they could win against the British was to run off into the middle of nowhere and take pot shots at these occupying forces. And this is something that it's actually part of this channel. The reason we're called the Florida Maquis is because this is exactly what the French Maquis and the Spanish Maquis did during World War II. Here are three great books. When the Germans rolled right over the Maginot Line with blitzkrieg and marched troops right down the Champs-Élysées, right under the Arc de Triomphe. And the French had to surrender en masse. It wasn't because the French were unarmed. It's because they got caught off guard. And they had to run and gun for the whole war. Hit real quick and then disappear off into where the word Maquis comes from. The word Maquis means shrubbery. These fighters, these freedom fighters, would disappear off into the shrubs. How many of you have seen the Homer Simpson meme of him disappearing into the hedge? That's a nod to the Maquis, because that's what they would do. They would hit and then they would just disappear. Maquis was the term that the Germans used to refer to them, because of how easily they disappeared into the scrublands. The only way we won over Great Britain was because the French showed up in force with regular military forces. And I say showed up in the sense that they had been there since long before the English, especially down here in Florida. The Spanish and the French fought over Florida for hundreds of years, long before the English ever set foot up in Plymouth Rock. So they knew the lay of the land here. There was the French and Indian War that had happened long before the Revolution. The French won. And here's another great example. How many of you remember Luigi Mangione? See, everybody's so upset and so sad about Charlie Kirk, and I feel for the man's wife. I feel for the man's children. But nobody seemed to feel for this United Healthcare CEO's wife and children. At that time, Luigi Mangione was being touted as a hero. Well, I probably should save that for Patreon so I don't get in trouble. But it wouldn't have mattered if the United Healthcare CEO was armed. Would it have? It would not have mattered one bit if this guy, the United Healthcare CEO, walking down the street in the morning, going to work, was armed and trained. If somebody's going to come out of nowhere in a black hoodie and pull out a weapon and end you, there's nothing you being armed is going to do about that. Hypocrites. So sad over a guy who was a right-wing bomb thrower and made his money doing that. Made his money. That's why he did it. Let's just be real here. He wasn't doing it because he was some kind of patriot. He did it because he was a hero, because he wanted to be a hero and make a bunch of money. 31 years old. All sorts of tears for him. No tears for this man's wife, this man's kids, this man's family. Because you didn't like the job he had. Somebody was going to be the CEO of United Healthcare. Why was this guy supposedly the unworthy? Why were these two unworthy? Lying in their bed asleep. Lying in their bed in their homes asleep. Guilty of what? Guilty of being Democrats. Guilty of being Democrats in Minnesota. When a Trump supporter came in and assassinated him, cold blood. A lot of people say, well, that's why you have to be armed in your home. If you're asleep, dead to the world, and somebody's awake, and somebody's armed, and they break into your home, they already have an advantage. They already have an advantage. And in close quarters, I'll take what this guy has in his hand over any weapon like we saw used in this issue with Charlie Kirk any day of the week. Simple pump shotgun. Close quarters like this, won't even be close. Here's another great example. See this girl? She got a gun in her purse. This guy just has a knife. Who do you think's going to win here? This guy here is going to walk away with a brand new purse, a gun that's in the purse, probably all the money, the wallet, everything else, and perhaps, well, Patreon only things. I'll let you ladies envision that. How did the Native Americans put up any kind of a fight against the colonists out west? They won quite a few battles, killed quite a few colonists who were armed. Because at that time, they could rip off arrow after arrow after arrow after arrow much faster, at least for a time, than the colonists could get off rounds with their thunder sticks. You can't walk around like this every day of the week, can you? You and your friends can't go to Walmart like this. You can't go to Target like this. You can't go to Publix like this every single day. Because if there's somebody out there who's going to do you harm, and they decide they want to do it, they'll do it. People look at an image like this. It's another psyop. Normalize buying 100 acres of land with your friends, growing your own food and families together. Okay, so you're out here and you've got your little bonfire and you got your garden, everybody's out here. And let's say there's somebody off here in the woods who does what this guy did down in Utah. And he starts peppering off rounds and you don't know where he is. First thing, I don't care how armed or unarmed you are. I don't care if you're walking around with a pistol on your hip. If somebody's putting high-powered rounds into the area that you're at, you're going to go for cover. If you're smart, if you have half a brain, you're going to run for cover. This is not a new idea. This is a picture from the IRA. All you've got to do is put in two blanks here. There can never be peace in blank until the foreign oppressive presence is removed, leaving all the blank people as a unit to control their own affairs and determined their own destinies as a sovereign people, free in mind, body separate and distinct physically, culturally, and economically. This is an old idea. If you want to read some really great books on what we're going to be facing, Rise of the Maquis, A French Resistance Story, Charles S.G. Fournel, pardon me, The Night Belongs to the Maquis, Carolyn K. Brancato, SAS, Special Forces with the Maquis in Action with the French Resistance, June to September 1944, by Ian Wellstead. Maquis, Soldiers of the Night, Stories of the French Resistance, and Bernard Crochet's Les Maquis en France sous l'occupation. You'll see and read a lot of things that you're probably going to disagree with, but it worked. But it worked magnificently. The Germans had no answer for the French resistance fighters during World War II. And they were instrumental. There would have been no D-Day. There would have been no D-Day whatsoever had it not been for the Maquis. So I will leave this there. Folks, it didn't take a sniper. It didn't take a sniper to do what was done in Utah. 200 to 250 yards. It's a little bit of a longer shot, but Charlie Kirk was not a pop-up target. The guy didn't have to get up there and only have 5, 8, 9 seconds to get his shot off in Army basic training. Forget Marine Corps. In Army basic training, you've got between 3 and 7 seconds. These days, they give them red dot sights, but when we were doing it, and Vietnam era guys know this for sure, you had to use iron sights. 20 different pop-ups, random pop-ups from the foxhole position, and 20 pop-ups from the prone position. This is prone, what you're looking at here. And believe me, you had to practice, and you had to listen. I think a lot of the little gadgets and gizmos now that they have on all these weapons, I think is actually making for worse soldiers. Just makes things too easy. So, personal opinion. I'll leave that there. What do you guys think? Love to hear your ideas down in the comments. Join us on Patreon. Love to have you. The reason we still have a YouTube channel is because we have a Patreon channel. The Patreon channel now is pretty much supporting everything. So, God bless. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. Like, share, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.